Hi, so in this video I'm going to show you how to use pivot tables. I use pivot tables every single day. It's very helpful, saves a lot of your time. So here we have a long list of customers with various variables, and we want to be able to analyze it. It's very difficult to analyze something like that. You can't visibly really see much here. So what we're going to do, we're going to use this data to create a pivot table. Select any cell within the range and go to the Insert tab, and here we have pivot table and pivot table chart. So for now we only want to do the pivot table. We can do it straight away from now, but actually I would prefer always to transform this data into a real table, so that if we add more data later in here, it will be easier to refresh pivot table that will include all the data, including the ones that are added. So in order to transform this into a table, you can either click here, Format as Table, or just Ctrl T on your keyboard. You can pick any format you want. So we have a table now. So like I said, we need to go to Insert, click on Pivot Table, and now as you can see here, it's referring to Table 1 because we've changed it from data range to a table, so it's referring to a table name. And here it's asking us where we want to locate our pivot table, and I'm going to leave it in the same worksheet. I'm just going to type here that I want it to be in, say, I3. I can just click on it. There you go. So here you can see now the full list of columns that are coming from this table. And pivot table is basically to help you to move things around, to move columns, to move rows, to analyze it in any way you like, really. So to give you some example, we have cities, for example. So to see a distinct list of cities, we could, for example, drag city name here, and as you can see, these are all names that exist in this table. And now if you wanted to see how many customers actually live in each of those cities, we can just grab customer ID. And what happened now, as you can see, this is summarizing the customer ID, because as you know, customer ID is a number as well, so Excel thinks it's a number, so it's gonna calculate the total. But that's not what we want. We want to have the count of customer IDs. So here we need to just click and choose the value field settings, and here choose count. And you can see obviously there's many different options. There's average, there's minimum, and so on. And there you go. So we have customers. So there's 64 customers living in London, there's 4 customers living in Manchester, and so on. And now if we actually wanted to go and see those customers, instead of having to come back to the table, you can just right click on this cell here, double click or right click and click on Show Details. And when you do that, a new worksheet is created which shows you exactly the 4 customers. As I can see, these are the 4 customers that live in Manchester. So I'm just going to delete that for now. Another thing we can do, we can try to add customers again, and it's trying to calculate the sum. But if you actually wanted to display customers not as count of customers but as a percentage of total, then I'll select count here and then percentage of column total. So as you can see, 64% of our customers lives in London, 4% lives in Birmingham, and so on. You can see we have exactly 100 customers, so you can see that's been split. percentage. Another thing we can do, we can actually remove it. As you can see, I'm just dragging that to remove things. I could actually move city here if I wanted to. I can remove it completely. I can have gender here, and then again see the count of customers here. So 80 of our customers are men, 20 are female, and again, if you want, we could also display it as a percentage as opposed to number. Gonna remove it again. Now, if you wanted to see, for example, how much customers spent on a given day, we're gonna put the last purchase date per customer and then drag the spent amount. So in total, on every single day, we've earned this money from these customers on those days. And again, we could display it again here, but this time we can display it as a percentage of total. And you can see majority of our profit comes from 10th of June 2013. Another thing you can do in pivot table is also using filters. So at the moment we have no filters applied. So say I want to include only females, I could then just select F, and there you go, we have females only. Or we can have men only. Instead of filtering, we could actually display it if you wanted to. So I'm gonna remove this one and move it from the filter to here. And you can see the spent amounts being split into between men and women. We have a grand total shown here, but again, this is something that we could remove. So we can go to either pivot table options, and from here we can remove grand totals on rows or grand totals on columns. I'm going to remove these ones for now, and another way of doing it is to go into the design tab, and here as well you can switch off all totals. You can have both of them. You can have only one on rows and one on columns. And the last thing I would like to show you is Slicer. Slicer is fairly new, not many people use it, but it's particularly helpful when you have, for example, a spreadsheet with a number of pivot tables like this on one spreadsheet, and you want to have you want to be able to filter all those tables at once, so without having to apply filter here to every individual pivot table, you can actually use a slicer. So let's try to do it. I'm going to try to create another pivot table from this data. I think the quickest always way is just copying and pasting. And I'm gonna remove this, and I'm gonna remove this as well. I'm just gonna remove the gender and leave this in. Okay. And that's here, instead of showing the amount spent, we're gonna actually show a number of customers. There you go. So we have two pivot tables now, and you see we don't have any filter here, and we don't have any filter here. So if I wanted to filter the data in this table and this table simultaneously, including only London as a city, I'm gonna insert a slicer. Now I need to select city as my criteria. Okay, so as you can see, I have a slicer. And now that shows me the whole list of cities available. And at the moment they are blue because they are all selected. None of them is filtered out. So if I now click on one of them only, as you can see, the data here has changed, but nothing has changed here. And why is that? Because when I created slicer, when I inserted slicer, I was within this pivot table and not this one. And now I need to somehow link this slicer so that it's filtering not only this table but also this table. So I just need to right click on it and slicer settings. We can change the name of the slicer, we can change the order in which cities appear, and there's some more options here, but this is not how we can actually connect it to pivot table. So there you go, pivot table connections. And now you can see there's two tables. At the moment only one is checked, pivot table 2, and pivot table 4 is not checked, so we're going to check it, confirm with OK, and there you go, and this changed. So if I remove filter from the slicer, the values here and values here change as well. If I choose Liverpool, values here and values here change as well. Remove the slicer, the filter. And that's all. Thank you very much for watching.